it's Wes, and today we are talking about what I unfortunately cannot call the smallest lens I've ever used, because it is slightly larger than this Rockstar manual focus lens. However, this lens is an APS-C lens. Also, as I said, it is manual focus. But with this new Viltrox lens, we're going crazy. This is a full-frame autofocus lens. What? It is the Viltrox 28 4.5. Starting with the build quality. If we take a close look at this lens, we see just a surprisingly large back element on this. Would not expect that for something so small. Electronic contacts. This appears to be made out of aluminum on the back here, but on the front, I believe it is plastic. We have the cutest little lens cap release. So glad to have that. The back cap is almost the same size as the lens. It's insane. You put this lens on a camera body, and yeah, it's basically a body cap. But how does it perform? How good is it? We're gonna get into that real soon. Obviously, we have no lens hood here. It's not weather sealed. There's no focus ring. This is just a grip for snapping it onto your camera. It is very lightweight, very small, but the closer you look at this, the more surprising it is. There's a USB-C port in here. How did they even fit that for firmware updates? But overall, the fit and finish of this lens is kind of shocking to me. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Got a metal mount. Everything looks nice, feels nice. I like it. Handling and usability. Obviously, massive win for handling and usability is that this lens just disappears when you attach it to a camera. If you want to put it in your camera bag, it doesn't have to go into a lens section, it just slides in whatever pocket or pouch you want it to. There is no aperture ring. There is no aperture. It's only a 4.5, always a 4.5. There's no focus ring, there are no buttons or slides or dials, no way to interface with it. Now, I wish I had like an A7C or one of the original A7 cameras for this, because even this A9, which doesn't have the biggest grip of the new Sony cameras, the balance isn't right. You want a teeny tiny camera for this, and then you can really have some fun. But because it's an autofocus lens, I don't really want to use it on the original A7 because the autofocus is kind of miserable on that. You want to use it on a more modern body that can take advantage of that. And we'll talk about how well that autofocus works a little bit later. I have to give this great marks for its handling and usability, because handling, obviously, so simple. I love that integrated lens cap. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. It's just fantastically fun to use. Next up is image quality. And honestly, I was really surprised. I saw some reviews on the internet saying that the image quality is disappointing. What on earth were these people expecting? It is perfectly usably sharp. There's very little chromatic aberration because we're always at f4.5. The flares are not totally overwhelming. Yeah, it does wash out pretty easily in flares, but not crazy bad, especially since we don't even have a lens hood. And if we zoom in here, we look at those individual hairs on Maggie, yeah, it's great. And it's a full frame lens. Compared to everything else that I have tested, I have to give this a 7.5 out of 10. For a cheap and tiny little pancake lens, amazing. Image character, and they were obviously trying to do something very specific when they made this lens. If we look closely at this, you can see that we have a permanent aperture at 4.5, but it's also an octagonal aperture. We've got a little stop sign in there, and that's on purpose so that we get very specific sun stars and lens flares. And oh boy, does it ever. Those sun stars extend way farther than I expected, but they're tremendously fun. As long as you know what you're getting into, it's a ton of fun working with the character of this lens, sunsets and backlit and so forth. It's phenomenal. Now, if this was like a $500, $1,000, $2,000 lens, you wouldn't want to be stuck with a particular look, but this is a very cheap, cost-effective lens, and you don't always have to have it on your camera, and even if you don't, easy peasy, put it in your pocket, front pocket, back pocket, whatever. Perfect for that. The bokeh, not perfect. You won't see it very often because we're wider angle, 4.5 aperture, but it's not even an octagon. A lot of the time it's like half octagon, half circle. There's some onion ringing. That's the biggest problem here. Gonna give this an 8.5 out of 10. Like it. Maybe even love it. Focus performance, well, you win some, you lose some. This is one of those third-party lenses that has difficulty focusing out of the center 1/3 portion of the frame. And I would say in low light it struggles a bit, but for a 4.5 lens, a lot of stuff is low light when it shouldn't be. So that necessarily narrower aperture negatively affects our focus performance as well, because you're pushing into higher ISOs more readily all of a sudden, and then fighting with a lack of light to focus. Also in low contrast subjects, it struggles a bit more. I always use this gray cat Maggie as my focus subject because, yeah, it's hard to grab focus on. Some lenses, though, have no difficulty whatsoever. This one struggled a bit. You have to give this a focus performance of 6 out of 10. Value, this lens comes in at $100 US. That is phenomenal. We recently looked at the TT Artisan 27 2.8 lens, which is an autofocus pancake lens for APS-C. That was $150. And I would say this has slightly better image quality than that, and a more interesting character. Now it's a character that you're stuck with, so again, I won't harp on that too much longer. Hard to compare this to much else, because I'm trying to stay with autofocus lenses here. So there is the Viltrox 28 1.8, obviously a very different lens, $380. There's the Sony 28 f2 for $450. They don't really compare. This is a rather incomparable lens. And I have to give this an easy 10 out of 10 for value. $100, just to have a little fun. Highly recommend it. That gives us a total score of 78.3%. Let's see where it racks up on our total scale here. Obviously, it's not the winner. Did we expect this to be the best lens in the world? No, of course not. Do we expect to have some fun and not spend a lot of money? Absolutely. If you want to pick up one of these lenses, there's going to be a link down in the description below to help support this channel and feed my fat cats. If you have any questions about the Viltrox 28 f4.5, let me know and I'll get back to you. If you're looking for a street photography or even fashion photography, vacation lens that will give you a little bit of fun, highly recommend it. Is it the only lens you're going to bring with you? Probably not. But because it's so small, that's not a big deal anyway. And so, let's go take some photos.